All right, YouTube, if you paid attention to the primary last night, of course, the Republicans were voting in Oregon, but it's kind of a dead issue at this point. Trump's running unopposed. Yeah, Cruz and Kasich were on the ballot. Did they have a chance to magically win despite being there when everyone knows they've dropped out? Of fucking course not. Trump got like 70% of the votes. There were people laughing about him not getting 100%. What they've got to realize is there will be protest votes cast in any primary. There are also people that'll vote for Mickey Mouse. There are people that'll vote for George Washington or something. So I doubt he's concerned. He gets all the delegates in Oregon. He'll get every delegate from here on out. I think that puts him on track to 1488 delegates, which is a really funny number considering how people think he's like the reincarnated Adolf Hitler or something. But on the Democratic side, it was more interesting. Now, early on, the Republican race was really like, wow, this is, finally it's a little bit more of a blood sport politics thing. More of a bread and circus, perhaps, but an interesting one. The Democratic side, it was a snooze fest. It was Hillary and Bernie pretending that they differed on certain critical issues other than like universal health care and universal college and maybe how to crack down on banks, and fundamentally agreeing with each other 99% of the time. Sanders opens up in the first debate, "I'm tired of hearing about your damn emails." It was all it was almost too gentlemanly. And that makes sense because Hillary Clinton hasn't had a period in like 30 years. But anyway, Hillary Clinton is having a little bit of difficulty. She was expected to win Oregon, and she lost by 6 points. That's not good for Hillary's campaign. It's very bad for Hillary's campaign, because there was no reason in the polling to suggest that she would lose there. She barely held on to Kentucky by like 2,000 votes. By less than 1%. She almost lost Kentucky, which would have been even worse. She managed to retain it, but at what cost? It was basically a statistical tie. What you see is that Hillary Clinton, who is supposedly the messiah of the Democrats, she's a Clinton and she's female. She's supposedly the strongest possible Democratic contender they can scrape up right now to even run in the wake of Obama, who is at least more intelligent than Clinton or Sanders, if not more, more honest than the latter, I suppose, about on par with Hillary, I guess. Supposedly, she's like a really strong Democrat, and the Republicans were all worried because a few months ago, their big concern was, we're going to have a brokered convention. We'll look weak no matter who gets the nomination because no one will get enough votes. It was too crowded. Everyone's fighting each other. We look disunified. It's horrible. Now they've got their nominee. He'll be over the threshold. They don't have to worry about that. But on the Democratic side, the unexpected happened. I expected Sanders to be behind Hillary, but closer. He was closing the gap many months ago, so it was obvious that he was going to be a thorn in the side of Clinton by then. But I don't think a lot of the other people within like the DNC and the donors and even Hillary herself expected Sanders to do well enough so that he would actually be fairly close to her. And now she's actually counting upon a big win, not just winning California, but a really big win in order to sort of put this away out of her mind and avoid a contested convention. If the Democrats end up being the ones with a contested convention, Sanders is better at public speaking. He's got more experience at it and doesn't charge people $10,000 to hear him say a few sentences. He's got more political experience. He's more of a firebrand. He's more energetic. Hillary is kind of, she looks like she's bored half the time, or she looks like she's having stroke after stroke while she's strutting around up on stage, forgetting her own lines, forgetting what the teleprompter's fucking telling her to say to her rich donors. Bernie Sanders, there is the chance. Now, I don't think it'll happen, but there is an outside chance, and this is what's got to have Hillary and Debbie Wasserman Schultz terrified, that he will woo just enough superdelegates away from Hillary Clinton to actually get the nomination. Again, I don't think that it's going to happen. I think that ultimately she will clinch the nomination just barely. She'll be just over that threshold she needs. But she's going to look mighty weak because here's Trump. He'll have like 1,400. He'll be well over the threshold. Most of the rest of the field has come in behind him and said, okay, we'll do this. And yet half of the Bernie Sanders supporters are swearing up and down they won't vote for Hillary Clinton, and a large proportion say as a protest or because of some other issue they happen to really be irked by Hillary on, they're going to vote for Trump. Now, it turns out that the thing that hurt Trump in some of the conservative states, that is, oh, he's just a New York liberal, he's got New York values, is actually going to be a saving grace for him in the general election if Hillary's the nominee, because a lot of these voters, not just in rural areas, but in outlying regions in blue states as well, can't stand Hillary Clinton. She's got the black vote sewn up. She's kind of got an advantage with Hispanic voters, although a completely underwhelming one compared to how Obama performed. As far as among business class white Democrats, they've all either jumped ship to the Republican Party already, or they're voting for Bernie Sanders if they're still considering themselves Democrats, and that's going to push them over the edge. You'll see a few million people in an exodus from the Democratic Party. And by the way, I'll tell you this, the big thing isn't even the Democrats that are abandoning the Democratic Party. That's certainly a major story. It could flip a lot of states, but the bigger issue is independent voters. You saw it. Ultimately, it comes down to voters that are not strongly affiliated with either party. They're now the majority within this country. You have a candidate like Trump who is avoiding certain moral issues, may not do well with evangelicals. He doesn't have to worry about most of the evangelical states. Wisconsin, low turnout there might, keep Wisconsin blue. Otherwise, a lot of these swing states and states that lean red or blue, the issues he's avoiding aren't major issues in them, and the issues he's embraced are major issues. You'd think about a place like New Mexico and the issue of immigration. You'd think about Michigan or Pennsylvania or Ohio. Pennsylvania, that like Hillary's barely leading by anything over Trump, and it's not even the general yet, and he hasn't even really attacked her there. Something like steel, something like coal. Hillary's already cut off one of her own arms as far as preparing for the fight with Trump, who will be the Republican nominee, simply by bad-mouthing coal and steel and talking about putting people out of business. That one statement from Hillary, I think, is going to go down in history as one of the great political mistakes of modern political campaigns. I think this period of time in American history, people will look back at that comment. People who are studying political science, and they'll say that was the day Hillary Clinton really fucked her own campaign and lost the general election. If there was any saving grace that could get her through before that, she kind of destroyed her own chances, because that's how she lost any chance of winning Ohio, which, leans red, but it's been a swing state kind of in the last two elections. Obama won it in 2008. And then I believe won it just narrowly in 2012. So she doesn't get Ohio. I could fuck her in Virginia, regardless of felon voting blocks. It probably will hurt her very dearly in Pennsylvania. Michigan, certainly I would think that it's now more of a swing state, whereas before it was considered reliably blue for some time. I think you got to realize also, Hillary Clinton is a New York-style liberal, whereas Obama was a Chicago-style liberal. That is, his machine politics fed well into Union voters in the Great Lakes region, keeping them more blue. Hillary Clinton's not so well received. Now, Donald Trump has this in common, sort of the New York mentality, but at the same time, he's talking about growing domestic business and not fucking unions around. That's really all the invitation they need to switch their allegiance from mainly the Democratic Party to the Republican Party. So Hillary Clinton's having difficulty with a geriatric socialist who nobody thought in their wildest dreams would even be about even with her, certainly didn't think would win Oregon or come anywhere close in Kentucky. She's having great difficulty putting the race away. It's going to come down to the last bit of voting, whereas Trump won after New York. In a de facto sense, I say after Arizona, it was already assured, but at the same time, as far as the numbers go, after New York, it was pretty much certain, and after the slew of 5 additional states, mathematically speaking, it did become certain. You didn't need to wait till Indiana. Hillary still hasn't put it away here. There's still a chance, however remote, that she could lose. The fact is, she's only got one competitor, and she's so unloved that that competitor is about even with her. Trump had, 2 main competitors and was putting them away handily. Before that, he had quite a number of competitors, and he still ended up taking almost everything on Super Tuesday of any worth. So yeah, there you have it. Hillary Clinton is not a strong Democratic candidate. Everyone keeps talking about how she's the next president, she's inevitable. She's not. She is the weakest Democrat to run since Mondale, and she might be even weaker. I don't expect her to become the next president of the United States. I think at the end of the day, another thing will affect her negatively. People want a female president for its novelty, but they don't want Hillary Clinton to be the first female president. A lot of women don't see a nearly 70-something centrist liar, essentially, who also has already been in the White House, as the face of, let's say, modern women's issues. I think that that's going to hurt her severely. I don't think she's going to remain hegemonic among most of the voting bloc she has any advantage with at all. She could lose one or two of them by the time of the general election. You haven't even seen Trump begin on the blood sport because the general has not yet begun. Technically, it has. I mean, we know who the nominees, we know who one nominee is, we know who's likely to be the other nominee. He's been gearing up for this for literally decades. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's going to keep doing what he thinks he needs to do, and it will almost certainly work. No, Hillary Clinton is almost certainly not going to be the next president. It's almost certainly going to be Trump. You don't have to like Trump to acknowledge that fact. Just look at how wrong everyone's predictions were during the primaries. Very few people early on said, yeah, Trump has any chance at all. They called him a meme. They said, well, there's no chance. Even after Super Tuesday, when he won more than half of the states that were up, people said, oh, well, he'll collapse now. The novelty's worn off. And, it'll be Rubio. It'll be Ted Cruz. It'll be Kasich. It'll be Jeb from behind. He'll get back in or something. And it never happened. He's the nominee now. Well, the same will continue. And to see Jeb attacking Trump now that he's the assured Republican nominee is hilarious. It's actually going to strengthen him because people are going to say, oh, why is the Bush family that everyone fucking hates, including most Republicans, why are they still attacking Trump? Well, Trump must be a pretty good guy if people like Dick Cheney and George Bush hate him. And Jeb, who let's face it, a lot of people are just going to say, well, he's a sore loser. He's just bitter because now he'll never be the third Bush president. And Alan Bush was on his campaign team too, and then he switched and he was working for Ted Cruz and he lost also. That's about all. Peace out.